3, 2, 1.
This is episode number 462, summiting WordCamp US 2023. I'm Jason Tucker. Go to my website at jasontucker.blog. Find all the links that I do over there.
I'm Say Reed. I make WordPress, teach WordPress, preach WordPress, fly across the country to do WordPress stuff. I don't know why, but that's what I do.
And y'all know who it is. It's your boy Jason Cosper, aka Fat Mullenweg, back at it again on the world's most influential WordPress podcast.
Speaking of those podcasts, subscribe to them. We'd appreciate it. And hang out with us in our Discord.
I need to chat in the Discord more about this sitch. What we're doing. Hi from Washington. Oh, wait. No.
Hello.
Hi from Maryland. Sorry, wherever the heck I am.
Wherever you are.
Hi from a little tourist trap town that was like literally built for hotels and conventions. That's what.
Wow. That's what
we
it
are
is,
in.
huh?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's like wild. All the buildings, you know how like mixed use, like you have like restaurants, you know, retail on the bottom, and then above you have apartments and people live there. This is all fake mixed use. Like above one of the like restaurants, there's like this window of things. I'm like, I think those are piping ducts. Like those are like air ducts. That's not an apartment. And then there's like above that is like a parking structure, or above it is like a
weird.
hotel. I'm like this is a weird little manufactured city that we are in.
Uh-huh.
Wait, I'm gonna.
Did they rename the city WordPress just for this occasion?
Did what? Who?
Did they rename it WordPress just for this occasion?
No, we did not take over the whole town. We haven't even taken over this whole hotel. It is huge.
Wow.
It's actually like a biodome. The Gaylord hotels are like enclosed. So there's like pretend outside. So like you're in like what feels like it's like basically like a giant atrium, but it's got like a glass ceiling. So you're like inside, but you feel like you're outside, which is very weird, especially if you're wearing a mask, because just to kick it off with the summit, on the very first day, someone tested positive for COVID. Yep. So I've been masking. Surprisingly, not a lot of people are masking. I don't know if that's surprising or not surprising.
No, it's not surprising.
It's not surprising? Okay. I'm surprised by it because we all got an email that said, hey, someone had COVID. And I was like, oh, that means we'll all be masking. But it did not mean that. Everyone's like hanging out in enclosed rooms and enclosed spaces and happy to just get COVID, I guess, or whatever. I don't know. There's going to be massive COVID fallout from this event. Like 100%. And there was definitely not there was a tepid reaction to that fact. Like there was like they did have some masks, surgical masks. And they did bring, after there was some ruckus raised, they did bring a bunch of COVID tests that they bought from the local CVS. So everyone could take a box of COVID tests with them. But interestingly, the people who took the COVID tests, and there are some people even isolating to not bother other people, even though they don't have COVID. So there's some people who are like taking it very seriously, and some people who like it is not even a blip on their radar. So
wow.
I did not plan on attending WordCamp US or the Community Summit. I did not even bother to apply to the Community Summit because I knew that nobody would still be taking COVID seriously.
Yeah. And there's a new wave and blah, 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 blah. So there's like
there is a new wave, and there have been so many people on my timeline on the Fediverse, like in group chats that I'm in locally here in Bakersfield in Central California. It is popping off. Like this is the most people that I have known who have gotten infected.
And like in a really short amount of time.
The past like 3 weeks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I had some clients who had it before I left. I didn't see them in person. I masked on the airplane, which was very uncomfortable for a red eye masking. Not fun, but I did it anyway. And I'm masking here, not in this hotel room, but hopefully whatever. I mean, I can't do it all the time. So that was an interesting beginning. Like,
yeah.
I was like, wow, someone already tested positive? That means they came here with COVID. That's what that means. They arrived with COVID.
How did contributor day go for you?
Okay,
Looks
so
like it was
contributor day
8:30
was yesterday. So
8:30
today
to 5,
is the first day of WordCamp US proper. And I feel like I have already done the conference. I'm done. It's like, I don't need any of the rest of it. I've been here since Tuesday morning. Tuesday morning was the first day of the community summit. And the community summit, this was the first summit for like 6 years, I think. It was like 2018, maybe was the last one. No, 20 something. 2015.
Well, did they have a summit around one of the WordCamp Europes? I think this is the first communities. I think this is the first community summit since the one that they had in Philly, right?
I don't actually know, but I did go to that one in Philly, so that makes sense. I didn't go to that one, but I did go to that. That makes sense timeline wise. It was really interesting. You know, there's a no attribution policy. So I won't be saying anything that anyone said specifically, but I do have a lot to say about it. So it was just so everyone knows the format's basically, usually it was more of an unconference, right? Where you would meet in the beginning and then discuss the topics that, you know, you wanted to do. And then people would do breakout sessions, excuse me, according to those topics. But this year, the topics were submitted ahead of time and then just decided upon by someone somewhere. And oddly enough, that is a huge theme that came up for the community summit, is that people are making decisions somewhere and having discussions somewhere, but not everyone is clear on where those things are. So the idea of the invisible conversations, the invisible decisions, and the invisible work that is done on WordPress in general was a big topic. I kind of took that phrase from something someone else had said, where they said that there are a lot of invisible hours that go into the work of sponsored contributors, speaking specifically about Automatic. When I was talking about how there are folks who are pledged 40 hours a week on their .org profile, but they are restricted from actively contributing to the community to a certain amount of hours. So as the marketing team rep, I'm like, so if that person is pledged to the marketing team for 40 hours, they're not even coming to the meeting or chiming in.
Wow.
Yeah, there's one person who's actually in the same, like it says 40 hours for Meta and marketing. And I am in every meeting for both Meta and marketing, and they're not there. So I don't know. That was a big thing for me, is like, you know, what were you gonna say?
You know what, 40 hours, no meetings. I mean, that just sounds like a personal preference to me. That just sounds like they're not a big fan of meetings.
They're async meetings. Like, it's not like you can, like, you know what I mean? It's like you can go back and look at them. So like, there's not really an excuse, because if you don't want to like sit there on your computer and watch like GitHub issues roll by in Slack for an hour, I get it. But you can come in like later, anytime in the week, and just, you know, you could just sign in on the attendance thread, be like, I'm here. Like, not like I would know if you read it or not, but that's like minimum.
So that's like quiet contributing.
I mean, they're contributing. They're contributing by virtue of the fact that they work.
Instead of quiet quitting, it's quiet contributing.
I love it. Quiet contributing.
Yeah, that's what happens before people finally drop out of the project. They quiet contribute.
They quiet contribute. No, I think that it's really about this invisible. Like, that was a big thing that I talked about a lot. Is like, you know, we have these invisible processes, like processes where like people just kind of know what's happening, and like someone tells someone else, and then that's how they know. So there was a lot of conversation about institutional knowledge and the loss of that when we lose people. And I bring up sponsored contribution a lot, because I have been having a lot of issues with sponsored contributors in my various areas in my contribution. And now for the second time, someone has been fired. A full-time sponsored contributor has been fired off of my team. Nothing to do with me. And they just disappear. They just evaporate, and all of their documents and all of their projects and everything, they just sit there then. And all their pings, they just like go unanswered. It feels very sad. It feels like they didn't like die, obviously, but like I feel like they've been disappeared. That's what it feels like. Like,
right.
Like someone came and just like whoop, and they're out of there. And then I like to talk. I did in fact sing this at only a tiny bit, but I said, so we don't talk about Bruno. No. We don't talk about Bruno. I don't want to get us a copyright ping on
So
that,
what's the offboarding process for someone who's doing this? Is there a way of knowing that's happening, or is
It's
it
really
just
funny that you say offboarding, because that is a term that was really kind of brought up, and it seemed to be very
I work in
surprising.
IT? That's
What?
onboard offboard is my jam. That's it.
Yeah.
Those are my two
there
things.
was an excessive amount, not excessive, appropriate, but a lot, like an appropriate amount of a lot of talk about onboarding new contributors, onboarding sponsored contributors,
No offboarding.
onboarding, just anyone, right?
Yeah.
We didn't talk about onboarding to WordPress proper. Didn't even talk about that. I didn't
No
even
one
get
cares
into it.
about that.
Like, I'll just leave that all alone for now. We're talking about the community. We'll talk about onboarding to the actual software and program some other time.
But it's like offboarding,
but-
delegating, and then cutting them off entirely, so that way they are no longer contributing,
Yeah, no,
no
that's
longer
not
can
what
do anything
happens.
bad.
Their projects
Wow,
just get dropped.
that's fun. That sounds
Yeah.
like
In fact, it's like their projects are just like no longer have a shepherd. It's like all the sheep the sheep being like the projects, not people.
right.
But like, the shepherd just suddenly like gone, and it's like just the sheep just wander off. Honestly,
So these
what?
These contributors are basically sent down the memory hole and
But, like,
to borrow
this
from
weird-
1984.
Yeah, exactly. And you're not supposed to talk about them, and they're like erased because they actually are. Their document ownership turns into just a generic owner. Like their name
It's just
is
a
gone.
mystery man. It's just a
Yeah,
mystery
it
man
just says-
avatar.
In certain cases, it just is like, the name of the company.
Wow.
I was like, oh, it's weird. I'm pretty sure the company didn't share it with me, but okay. That's
So
fine.
there's like stubbed accounts for each of the contributing companies, and then they just swap out the person.
I don't know about all of the companies. I can only speak about one of the companies, because that is the one of the companies that fuels all of the sponsored contributors on my team.
That's very fun.
On the marketing team. So
we're definitely going to have a discussion about this.
about which part? Aren't we having a discussion about
no, yeah,
that?
but I don't want to take up the whole thing. I mean, there's like an
Okay,
entire event that you went to and everything.
The funny thing is,
Yeah.
it was the same conversation. I went to every single, there was like four topics or whatever. And I went to all of them. There's some technical ones. There's two on accessibility, one on DEIB. And I kind of split with some of my folks here. Courtney, Nye, hi Nye. Nye's in her hotel room watching, just so you know.
Nice.
Taking a rest. So I was like, you go to this one, I'll go to this one. But like, even at the same time, like the topic was like almost the same topic. And the conversation, I feel like I had the same conversation for 2 days, like over and over and over. And it was like, I was like, I can't remember which room I said this in. I don't remember. Did I say this in here already? Did I say this like 2 hours ago? Like, for example, one of the, on the second day, there were 2 different talks. There were 3 talks. One was developing the contributor pipeline. Okay. Then there was another talk called developing the contributor leadership pipeline, because that's somehow different than the regular contributor pipeline. And then there was another one called like defining the team rep role. Like, and then there was another one about like how to like keep, I can't remember all the titles exactly. It's on the site, but they sound very similar, and they were very similar. And I think the redundancy, on one hand, it's good, because at least from my perspective, like the things that I needed to say about like contribution, onboarding, offboarding contributors.
You literally work for HR.
Yeah, I like got to say it to like a whole group of different people each time. I mean, there were some people who I was in the same room with each time, but I at least know that most people heard what I had to say about, the contributor pipeline. So that's good. I have a lot of feelings on it, because the real problem, and this was just underscored, it is mind-boggling how unanimously the new contributor experience is a cluster for everyone. Like everyone's like, yeah, until someone grabbed my hand and literally showed me around and told me what was happening, I could not figure it out. And, you know,
Wow.
that's not sustainable. Like that's not a one-to-one, like it's nice, right? But an unofficial one-to-one onboarding means that if you don't already have a buddy or a friend who's bringing you in, you're kind of iced out. And that's not accessible. That's not inclusive. That's not any of these things that we're like, oh, we champion these causes. But it's not just me who has experienced this. Like everyone was saying this. So that's why it wasn't even just me saying the things that I was saying. Other people were also saying the things that I was saying and that I also think.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wanted to stand up in so many things and just be like, oh my God.
Have any of you
Can
worked
we
for a
just do
company?
something about this, please? Because we weren't supposed to make any decisions. So it's just conversation.
Wow.
Which I didn't realize was going to be as frustrating as it was.
It seems like the summit had a lot going on, though. I mean, there was tracks.
There's
and there
it
was
weird, but the facilitators were not they didn't present, right? They read like the description, and then so the setup was interesting. There are usually 2 note takers per session, and I'll get back to those folks in a second. And then there was someone called a stack leader, or a stack taker, or a stack timer, I don't know, whatever. And then there was the facilitator. So essentially 4 roles of admin for each session. And the facilitator was like introducing the topic, moving people on to the next topic. In some cases, they synthesized the topic, but it was all very different. There was no standard to the facilitation whatsoever. And sometimes people would get in there and be like, all right, well, what do you think? And then there'd be like this silence in the room. And I'm like, okay, fine. I'll go first. It's fine. I have stuff to say. So it was like, I really was walking a tight line between I have stuff to say and I want not to dominate the conversation.
Which is hard to do when no one else is talking, because you're essentially really dominating the conversation.
If there's a line and other people are talking, I can generally like curb my talking impulses. But if no one's talking, I'm like, am I really raising my hand again? Look, there it is. Hands going up. Like,
Can you tell me a little bit about like how a session works? Are you essentially showing up as the marketing, like one of the marketing people in the session, and there's really, other people in there too?
There was some facilitators, like they were very, the facilitators did their own thing for the most part. So in one session, and maybe it was because it was a little smaller, but we went around the room and said who we were and, you know, what we did in WordPress sort of deal. And so sometimes that was helpful. Mostly it was not about like, oh, you're representing marketing, or, oh, you're representing this. It was really just more like general contributors. But I would, of course, say, you know, I am, as the marketing team rep, I have experienced this, you know, and so I definitely, you know, there was definitely like bringing that up in context, but not in terms of like, I am representing marketing and this is what marketing thinks. It was me, you know, it was all everyone's individual thoughts and what they're bringing to the table, but their role, you know, as a you know, core lead or like a team rep or whatever. I mean, it was relevant to their perspective and their experience. So there was some surfacing of what it was not like a title-less thing, you know?
Yeah. I'm just thinking like because of that, if you're in like I'm reading some of the different topics for each of these.
Yeah, pop it on so we can look at it. I'll tell you. So I can remember
it's just like I'm just trying to think of like how would you go for it, Cosper, while I'm doing this.
I was gonna say, like, while Tucker's getting that up, what I recall of attending a few of these community summits was that usually folks like will circle up some chairs. They will kind of all like collect in a way that usually traditionally like puts no one at the center. Occasionally, like things got like, I think in at Philly there were a couple like breakout rooms that were in like a more like theater classroom setup, so people stood up near the front. But the one that they had at Automatic, like at the last WordCamp San Francisco, etc., all tended to be like just a circle of chairs, almost
Right.
a little kindergarten, but in a good way.
Yeah. Or like, you
So
guys go sit over there and talk about that you all want to talk about, and now you guys
right.
go sit over there and you talk about that over there. Yeah.
But it didn't center anybody as like leading the conversation, even if there was a person who was there like kind of going, okay, this is what we're going to talk about, and facilitating a little bit, but it didn't necessarily mean that like they were where the buck stopped with
Right.
these
Or that they were like,
conversations.
Many of the facilitators were sponsored contributors, and many
Yes.
of the facilitators were, occasionally were project leadership. And there's a dynamic. I actually said this at one point to someone who's, there's a pretty small project leadership, so it's one of a few people. And it's like, whether you want to be super approachable or not, if you approach someone, you are coming from a position of authority. It exists that way. So if someone who's in a position of authority is leading a session, I do think that it has a quieting effect on what people might feel like they want to say. Because the person who they're, you don't really talk necessarily to the facilitator, but people do anyway, because that person is, leading, directing the conversation. So even if they're not leading it or presenting, it's still kind of like the focal point for the conversation. And, when that's being led by project leadership, you're not going to get the same responses. Like in most cases, project leadership was sitting and listening. And I appreciate that. And they would talk. They also talked and had conversations and would synthesize things. So it was not terrible. But the format was, to my mind, difficult because, like, for example, look at this one that was on the screen right now. Like, we've got an 11 o'clock session. One is iterating on the team rep role, and the other one is how does the make team ecosystem work and how are we connected? Well, team reps are really a big part of that ecosystem. So I went to the ecosystem one, and like some of my friends went to the team rep role one, and I was like, well, you know how to, you can represent our views there. And then there's multiple instances of that, right? Like multiple, like even if you scroll down again, part one, aligning processes and contributions, and then communicating on the blogs. Like, well, communicating on the blogs is a process. So in that one about process and contributions, well, that one's about, anyway, they do map. Like there's like definitely like overlap. My favorite wasn't a talk. My favorite session, my favorite, I don't know what you would call them. What do you call, like my favorite room?
Right.
I don't know. Because it's not a talk. It's not like really a session, but I don't know what it was. My favorite topic, I guess, was open source participation in global legislation. And I was, I guess not shocked that I actually ditched the second part. Like these were two-parters. They were all two-parters. You can see here, like, so every other one was a two-parter except the open source participation in global legislation, which also paired with the accessibility one. Right. And so I feel like everyone who was in that one in the first kind of wanted to stay for the second one to like finish their conversations and, do whatever was happening next with what they had already put into that conversation. But I mean, so, I never, there's a quote in a blog post that I read today, which maybe we can link to in the show notes, that said, there's some theorem that you should not confuse malice with stupidity, which is not a really kind saying, but I find it to be accurate in this. So I'd like to think that the positioning of this topic, for example, was not malicious or anything. It just happened to be that way or wasn't really thought through, but there were not very many people in that session.
Yeah. So what I was asking earlier regarding the idea of having someone like yourself who's representing the marketing team, if you went to this one in particular, it's like, can WordPress become the household name that it deserves?
I hate that topic.
That one makes sense.
Really
That one makes sense for marketing. But and it probably makes sense for somebody like polyglots, where that looks at it and goes like, okay, well, in this language you can go about it this way, or in this language you can say about it this way. But then, like, is hosting showing up to this, or is
I didn't go to that one.
plugin showing up to this?
Right? That sounds like marketing, right? But I went to the 5 for the Future one because I think that sponsored contribution and 5 for the Future is like, I'm not concerned about if WordPress has a strong, healthy contributor culture and is a strong and healthy project. It will continue to grow and be, that you cannot develop WordPress into a household name that it deserves to be, by the way, is a really weird, like, way to phrase that. It's like, does it deserve to be? Okay, I guess we're just all assuming.
Maybe sustainability would be a good group of people to show up to that.
Yeah, I'm like, I would just go up there and be like, what are our motivations here? But I think if you do not have a robust WordPress community supporting the community, the software, the process, the open source components, then it doesn't matter if it's a household name, because it'll be like, a household name that no one doesn't matter because it's like a defunct. It's like, remember MySpace? That used to be a household name too.
What's funny is in between those, or like right next to those two topics, refining 5 to the Future and a robust WordPress community, just to the other side of that, building trust in WordPress CMS plugin and security. That is something that I could absolutely see being valid for someone for marketing. You're building trust, like you want to get the word out there. So both of those things could be combined into, can WordPress become the household name it deserves to be, because you are building trust, you are making a robust community.
Exactly.
Like, take that conversation in Woodrow Wilson C right in the middle and throw it the fuck out.
That's exactly how I felt about that session, actually. Although apparently some of the things that I heard were interesting. Some of the sessions, you heard secondhand, right, what happened in the session, and no attribution, so you're like, kind of like, here was the gist of it. And I was like, someone will write down whatever ideas anyone comes up with in that, and then we can try to implement it in the marketing team with our sponsored contributor problems and our ineffective marketing and whatever we've got going on over here. We'll take all those ideas, but I'm not going to go have a conversation about, can it become a household name? Like, even like, how can we make it would be like, I don't know. I'm not trying to be critical of the folks who created this, but this was a struggle for me.
That sounds like a WordPress.com problem, not a WordPress.org problem.
Was just absolutely about to say.
Oh, you were?
This sounds
Sorry,
like this sounds like an internal discussion that should be happening at Automatic, even though Automatic is not WordPress and WordPress is not Automatic.
I mean, look at the description. It's not even like, sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
I
didn't even look at the description because I was like, I don't want to be there. I do not want. I had friends that went to that one.
The internet's best kept secret at 43% market share. Bullshit.
Yeah.
It's
facilitated by Bluehost, and I wasn't there, so I can say it. But yeah, facilitated by the Bluehost guy.
Oh, I missed all that. What?
I mean, Devin is the one that was facilitating, so
yeah, it was very much sponsored contributors facilitating, and I don't know if that is because
that's kind of weird.
Many automaticians, I don't know if that's because they were just like, we know that person will be there and consistent, and because they're there because of their job. I don't know. There's definitely a dual culture. I talked about this a lot too, of sponsored contributors and non-sponsored contributors, and or volunteer contributors, and the culture differences, especially within the sponsored contributor community, is basically it's not quite contempt, but it is definitely a community and people and consensus takes so long and all this stuff. And it's like, where does it say anywhere that we work by consensus? Like, it doesn't even say that. Like, it's like somehow folks seem to think that if they bring things or tell people that stuff is happening in the community, that somehow means they have to wait for everyone to agree with them. But I'm like, there's a difference between communication and consensus. Like, those are they're not the same thing. They're
Like
just
for instance,
not.
at my work, I work at a nonprofit that has volunteers involved and has people that are paid involved. And our thing is like we can hire a volunteer who will like essentially work, there every day, but we don't pay them. But they're also not allowed to be they're
How
not
are we
allowed
in
to be.
overtime already? What the hell?
I know, right? But they're
Oh my
also not
God.
allowed. They're also not allowed to be someone's boss as a volunteer.
Right.
So,
Well,
I
that's
can kind
interesting
of see
in
how
terms
this
of like the
works with
team rep.
this.
I'm sorry to
hmm
over talk you. That's really interesting in terms of the team rep and the idea of leadership in the project, because there is this idea of can someone who's a volunteer who can in theory ditch out anytime, have these leadership roles. Well, I'm like, well, it doesn't matter if the company can fire their sponsored contributor anytime also, that it's kind of the same thing. I don't know. We're just like,
You don't find out until the email bounces.
yeah, exactly. Until your
Yeah,
your
yeah,
messages go unanswered for days or whatever. It's like,
yep.
or forever, I guess, at
That's
that
where
point.
that's the offboarding side for me is the delegation and setting up a delegate for someone to pick up the emails and
There was a lot of
aliases
talk.
and all that fun stuff.
There was a lot of talk about offboarding. There's a lot of talk about getting the folks like burnout. There's a lot of talk about burnout, contributor burnout. There was a lot of talk about like, if you like, how do we get the people who are before they burn out to communicate with the folks who are, still there, not burning out, not leaving, and before they've like, dropped off the planet or whatever. The thing is about all of this is like none of this stuff is new. Like I didn't really hear anything new. Didn't hear anything new that one, we didn't know was a problem.
Yeah.
I didn't know was a problem, I guess, but I've been around the community now for a really long time. We're about 11 years old, our show, right? We're almost about to be 11. So like, that's more than a decade of WordPress experience. So on one hand, it's really sad that we're having the same conversations that we had, at the community summit I attended in like 2015 or whatever. And on the other hand, I'm trying to be positive and think like, at least we had these conversations. I feel like the culture of the US or of the world has gotten more where we are demanding more accountability from folks. And you can actually see that on, for example, there was an incident on Twitter. I don't know if you all saw that about the Pride Party. Someone was, saying, why are we doing Pride Party? It's divisive or whatever. And everyone's like, that's entirely not the point. But that person actually just, that it just raised
divisive to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Divisive to them. They're like, this is excluding me. It's like, it's not actually excluding you. You're
quit centering yourself, asshole.
Yeah. That's a little different. Wow, you're really fired up today, Cosper.
Yeah. Wow.
So I will say just real quick regarding the whole burnout thing. The topic of the word burnout on WordPress TV. Looking here, this is not a new topic.
No.
Like, at all. We may have called it something else before this. I don't know, but
holy moly,
there's a lot of burnout.
Really fascinating. I had not thought about that. I like that a lot.
There's a lot of burnout.
There's a lot of burnout. And, a lot of the burnout comes from the fact that everyone's trying to do these things and there's no processes, or there's an invisible wall that they hit. And they're like, I don't know why. I'm not sure why I can't go past this, and no one will tell me why I can't go past this. I talked a lot about the contributor journey. You're a new contributor, you go, and after you're a team rep, you just kind of sink back into the team. It's like nowhere else to go. There's nowhere else. That's like something that I pointed out, is that there's not actually any sort of process to become part of project leadership. Those are appointed positions. Those are hired positions. And that's not that I want to be project leadership personally. I'm just saying there's no, that's top down, right? Like the rest of it is like, we're moving up and it's people who have this experience. So of course there's burnout, because you stay in the same role forever. If it was like that in a real job, you'd be like, I gotta go do something else. Like I have to, I've done this for a decade. I need to move on. And then what ends up happening is you get people like Mika, who did that for a decade and then burns out And in her case, she, really handled it and, connected and like did a lot of work, a lot more work after already being burned out to enable the team, whatever, the plugins team to continue and to grow. But really like that's again, and I kept emphasizing this, is really still on the individual. That isn't any sort of process that exists to alleviate that. And we have known about this. None of this is new. And I hope that like if we are still having this conversation next year, in 2 years, in 5 years, like then it's futile and it's intentional. Like
we'll have to count the number of burnout posts.
Yeah. Oh my Lord.
So did they talk?
We're so burned out, we're like a fire over here.
Yeah. Did they talk anything about the idea of a thermometer or a way of putting a number, putting a value to one's burnout? Was there anything like that?
There is actually a really cool conversation happening. It was very prevalent at the summit, but it didn't come out of that. There's a really interesting conversation about dashboards that are happening. So dashboards for teams and there's no metrics for this. This is the problem. There's no metrics. There's no data. There's no way to measure this stuff currently. Mm-hmm. But this is also a problem. It's not just a problem for volunteers or certain teams having so much work to do and, needing more assistance. It's also that sponsors who may want to contribute employee time or whatever, or even just regular people who are like, oh, I can do this or this or this, but I don't know where I'm needed. There's no way to communicate that right now. There's no way, there are things that are in place, like the updates page, which is supposed to be updated, but there's no consistency. There's no consistency in time of publishing. There's no consistency in format. There's no data to make any choices off of. So there is a conversation about how we can turn those things into metrics. And then each team would, in theory, have their own little dashboard that would show projects that are happening, amount of work that's happening, deadlines, and basically be, I don't know, project management. Silly.
I don't have my drink, but I was waiting for you to say KPI so I could take a drink.
I never say KPI if I can help it.
The interesting thing about this, and one of the reasons that I wished that I could have attended, that I wish that I didn't feel like I couldn't attend because of the lack of precautions taken.
I mean, you were right to do that, by the way, just so you know.
Yeah. But one of the things that I really have a hard time with is through work, I am a sponsored contributor. I contribute about 5 hours a week to the project, at least. Yet the 5 for the Future system, and I saw that there was something on the schedule talking about refining that. I've heard some rumblings of some dashboard conversations and everything else. But I, despite contributing 5 hours a week, if nobody publishes the attendance sheet from the meetings, if nobody puts those up in the blog posts that they do recapping meetings, if nobody does things like that, then I every few
You're
months
invisible.
I'm invisible, and every few months I get an email from the 5 for the Future system going, are you really contributing? And every time I get that, I get so pissed off.
That email goes out no matter what. We actually talked about that in one of the things. I didn't know that existed, but that email is just a little ping email, which marketing, of course, has no. Why would marketing ever look at an email communication? That's just bonkers.
And the way it reads is, it looks like you haven't been doing anything. Have you been doing any? Have you actually been?
Oh no!
Are you really doing anything?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's Jack.
It's terrible.
That is very get off your ass. That is bad. But that's the thing.
There's no way to measure. There's no way to prove you're doing anything. Conversely, there's no way to prove you're not doing anything. So there's a ton of people who are like, I'm contributing to all these teams. They do
the
nothing.
Rationale.
What?
Yeah. The rationale is, or rather the default way of thinking is, you're not contributing enough, instead of saying look at you contributing all over the place.
Or and again, this is some wild radical talk, but what if it was like, how's it going with your contribution?
Or hey, thanks for contributing.
Just
and then
like,
the person
hey,
feels
why don't
guilty
you
that they
reply
didn't
back
contribute.
to this email and tell us what's up? Like, has it been going well? Anything you need blockers on? Like, and this is some of the things we talked about. So the real problem with all of this is there were conversations about like all of the problems that you can think of. They were dissected and discussed and multiple perspectives on it. And people were taking notes and whatever. And at some point, each session, whoever took notes is, which was mostly automaticians, whoever took notes is going to synthesize the comments and then publish them on MakeBlog, which is make.wordpress.org/summit. I don't know if anything's up there yet. So the idea is that is the next step, but there is no prescribed next step after that. And I in a few things I tried to ask, it's like, well, go read the post. It's like, okay. So we're going to go comment on the post or give feedback. One of my huge things that I brought up multiple times was there's no process. It was part of the proposals and, make blog. Like, what do you put on the make blog? Where do you have discussions? There's no process for, okay, we've made a proposal. And this is something we come up with community. We had Leslie Sims on to talk about this very thing. She wrote an incredible response when they were talking about, I don't remember what the topic was. It was just, I think, phase 3. And she wrote this really incredible, like, well-articulated, like, well-researched, like, with examples and, like, really just super clear. And we had her on to talk about that. No follow-up. There's no, it's like, that's the proposal and you can give your feedback, but it's like leaving a Post-it on a wall. Like, there's nothing happens with that. And that's a big part of the problem. There's no follow-up. So I'm hopeful that just because I literally have been making GitHub issues for everything that was talked about, everyone's like, we need to define roles. And I'm like, well, I guess we'll do that in marketing. If it's not anywhere else, it will at least be here. So I've been, other than me spinning up GitHub issues, like it's going out of style, I'm not really sure. There's no prescribed follow-up. So the blog post, then you leave your feedback. So I guess it'd be like, well, I was at the summit and I was in this session, which totally destroys the non-attribution component. And then you're like, here's what I think about this, or this wasn't accurate. There's nothing that happens after that. Like, there's no set thing for what's going to happen. It's not, so it's like we all got a chance to air our grievances. It was like, what's that sign in Seinfeld? There's like the airing of the hate, or like
Festivus.
Yeah. What was it? Airing of grievances?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's like an airing of your grievances, but like nothing happens after that. Like, can we solve the grievances? Like, I mean, there are solutions. People would offer solutions in the open source legislation. I actually thought we got really far. And incidentally, I don't know if this counts as attribution, but all of project leadership was in that session. The entire, all of the project leadership was there. So obviously there's going to have to be something that happens from that one, because it's like literally requires, like, the Europe is like doing things that could possibly like really damage WordPress's contributor community with their different regulations that are possible. There will be some something will come of that, but it's like, did we all just have this conversation so that we could say we had this conversation and then you can then continue to do whatever? Like, that is my real fear coming out of the summit, that we all just shared all these feelings and experiences, and because we got it out, because we, agreed with you, because we found, we expressed it, the fire to resolve it is kind of like dissipated, because now we're all satisfied, right? We're like, okay, good. Now something's going to happen. We've been heard. We've exchanged views, and now we will solve the problems. Except for there's no freaking plan to solve any of these problems. So I'm not sure. And the blog posts are not going to say anything about how to solve the problems. They're just like summaries. So
yeah,
I'm not sure what's happening there.
People's feet need to be held to the fire.
Yeah, luckily, I love holding feet to the fire. Like, I think it's a cozy way to live. I will hold the feet, make a nice fire, maybe get some marshmallows. I'll be like, here are marshmallows and hot chocolate, but also your feet need to be right here. Yeah. So can you please get a little closer? A little closer.
you said that you weren't sure if people had been posting stuff. I see stuff on the Make blog, the Summit
Oh, it's there.
child
Yeah, I
blog.
didn't know if it was up yet or not.
I mean, it's not all there, but
Yeah.
there are at least, as of this recording, 2 pages worth of various notes from different
That's great.
sessions and whatnot.
I gotta go check those out and leave some feedback.
Yeah.
Right.
And see what I mean. There's not a format for the notes either. So there's not a format for the notes. There's no structure for follow-up. So I am it's not like a team has been appointed to like handle the follow-up. WordCamp US people are not handling the follow-up. There's not, to my knowledge, there is no structure in place for following up other than, again, individuals taking it upon themselves to follow up and hold said feet to said fire.
Well, I was gonna say, why don't some of us, either out there in the audience or here like on the show today, take it to ourselves to go. I'm gonna make sure that Tucker puts the Summit stuff in the show notes. Like, go to the Summit, leave feedback. If there is something in the notes that you don't understand, if the notes seem a little obtuse, ask for clarification.
Yes.
Because the people who were there, at the very least, the people who took the notes will get pinged. Hey, someone left a comment, and they'll be like, oh, and maybe possibly it might go nowhere, but it might also, in the back channel, because there's no attribution, someone might get pinged like, hey, you should weigh in on this. And
I don't know where the non-attribution starts. Like, so can we say, can we tag Josepha in our comments and be like, what are your thoughts on this? Like, that's not in the Summit anymore.
We can.
So can we ask?
We can. The people who took the notes can't.
Right.
So
I didn't go, so
right.
So that gives you both an objectivity and an ability to we have no plan. We have nothing that's happening like right after. I feel like that seems sort of essential. Like, everyone's like, yes, we're posting them on the blog. And I was just never able to get anyone to get past that, because I always ask my question at the end, like, of the session. So I was like, what's happening again? And no plan. So, and again, no action, intentionally, no action taken, no decisions made at the Summit, which I totally think is fine because it's open source and we don't want closed decisions being made. I also see a lot of these problems that are recurrent problems, long time problems. The solution that the community is coming up with is to make external websites. Because, we make websites. It's what we do, right? We make websites with WordPress. So everyone's like, well, I'll make a website to deal with this issue. I'll make a website to deal with this issue. But the big problem with that is, first of all, then we're not dealing with the issue in Make. We're not dealing with the issue in the community. We're dealing with the issue in the ecosystem and outside of the community, which is its own problem. But the other problem with that is, as the marketing team, for example, we cannot, or we should not, and I agree with this, start linking to third-party sites. Like, even if they are, just a nonprofit and support of the thing, there's a million gazillion nonprofits, right? Like, that is a problem. And so it's just, when we don't solve the solutions here, it's the same thing with plugins, right? If you don't solve the problem in core, the solutions exist in a plugin. And that same thing is happening with the problems in the community. If the problems in the community aren't getting solved by the community, they're now going to be solved by third-party people outside of the community. And I am drained by this, because that just means that person is now focusing outside the community, not solving the problem in the community. And we can't even link to it as a resource. So it's like if we don't fill the gap with community solutions, then they will be filled with external community solutions, and then we have nothing. And then it's solved, but it's not actually solved at all.
Right.
Very discouraging.
This predilection to build a site, to go off and build a plugin, a site, some sort of like, it's really prevalent in this community.
Yeah, turns out we like to
it's
build
really
websites. It's a thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it falls. I know that I love to speak in cliches. So please take a drink if you're watching and have something in hand. But I mean, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right?
Right.
Like so the WordPress community solution to every problem that is presented to them is WordPress. We've got a hammer. We've got a hammer that's
I can build a website for that. Do you need a website?
Yeah.
For that? I can build a website.
So are we just gonna do this like in Vado's forums or something? Is that what we're doing here? Like, are we just like, is there like a, I don't know, just doesn't make sense. I don't understand why you'd want to do this elsewhere instead of
I know
inside
is that
WordPress.
if the community summit is a representation of the community, which is its own conversation, then the community knows what its problems are. The community is consistent. The community understands the problems. The problems have been well articulated by most of the people. Like, there wasn't a ton of disagreement. I think actually the most disagreement that I heard about was in the DEIB conversation, which I heard got a little feisty, which was kind of funny, right? Because everyone else is being all nice, and then you get into the diversity and inclusion one, and people are like having conflict. I was like, wow, okay. That seems backwards. But the open source legislation talk, I just kind of as a closing point that I attended is really, I think it's really important because it literally affects like the legality of the stuff that is happening, the software, the requirements of the software, what the community can contribute to. And the big kind of pushback for sort of the question is sort of like, can we take a stand? Should we take a stand? Is there a way to take a stand? How do we take a stand? And the big pushback was kind of like, well, if we take a stand on this, we take a stand on everything, right? I'm like, I kind of feel like that's irrational. Like, that's just being really extreme. Like, just because you take a stand on like, I feel like anyone in the community who's like, understands what's happening would be like, oh yeah, it's okay for WordPress to stay in their lane, so to speak, right? To talk about open source legislation or to talk about security stuff or to talk about AI. And we actually, at the end of that session, went through and said, okay, what are some examples of things that are in the realm of what WordPress could kind of take stands on or take positions on or comment on as a community, as a whatever we are, an ecosystem. And all those things were super reasonable and rational. Should we take a stance on AI? Should we take a stance on, like I said, encryption, security? Should we take a stance on all the open source legislation that's happening? And the pushback is, oh, well, then we're going to care about, some fancy agricultural bill that happens. And it's like, we're not all totally unreasonable. Like, everyone is like, yes, it's a software. And of course, there's a huge inclusion component in the community, but that doesn't necessarily, like, WordPress commenting, and this is actually something that someone had mentioned in the thing, like WordPress commenting on, an issue that is not related to software, for example, or related to tech at all, like that doesn't even have much value, right? Like, it's not like the Human Rights Commission weighing in on something that has to do with human rights. Like, WordPress going over there and saying, like, we care too. It's like, everyone's gonna be like, yeah, but no one cares because you're not related to this at all, right? So it wouldn't even make sense. What?
That was an expressed concern from somebody, is that,
what?
Once we start commenting on relevant issues, we're also going to have to start commenting on irrelevant issues, because that seems really fucking disingenuous.
Yes, that was a real thing. I won't attribute it. But it was a real conversation. So, I mean, sadly, that was the end of that session felt like the most productive, because we did come up with, here's what WordPress's lane looks like. And it was just a list of suggestions. Like, it wasn't, again, that's, no one's holding anyone's feet to the fire about that unless we do. But that, nothing else, we did get some solutions, what could be some whatever, but it was all very, very loose. So
Hmm.
if anyone's listening to this and they care about the community, I promise you that your concerns were probably brought up and, you know, talked about, because I feel like most of the folks there, you know, we were not shy about the problems. Like everyone was
Right.
very much talking about it. And I feel like that was good, even though many times there was an elephant in the room. We all know what that elephant is. That was um, the company that is the elephant. But everyone still was, even if there was like maybe a chilling effect from sometimes there being leadership there, I think that for the most part, all the problems pretty much got expressed. I didn't go to a ton of the technical ones, but I kind of trust that they're fine anyway. Like they're gonna have no problems. The one I would have liked to go to is the Gutenberg and core alignment, because that's something we've talked about here before, about how Gutenberg is basically leading core and just how that works out. Because, you know, interestingly, tomorrow Matt's keynote, or Matt Mullenweg's end talk, is about Gutenberg. So I thought that was interesting, especially since we've been talking about Gutenberg, the software, the program ready, a lot. And it is definitely its own entity, and it is definitely leading the development. And so the conversations about Gutenberg are happening even in another abstracted level away, because they're happening in the Gutenberg GitHubs. And there's not like a Gutenberg team or anything. There's just the core team. And the core team's busy with core. So no one's like some of the core people are monitoring what's happening in Gutenberg. And so that was a discussion that happened. I'm actually really interested to read the notes about that and hear what was happening. I don't know how many like core devs there are that would push back against that, like against Gutenberg, because really there were a lot of automaticians and they were really entrenched in Gutenberg. So I don't know. I want to have faith. Let me say that. I want to believe that we can do this.
Is it time for a Gutenberg community summit?
I think I think we need to like bring Gutenberg into the fold. I met some really great people from Openverse, and Openverse they characterized it as like kind of the lost sheep of the world. They're like kind of the odd team out. Because they're built in a totally different tech stack, because it was an acquired thing. And they're just kind of like, and they're a completely sponsored team, 100% sponsored by Automatic, but they are part of the community. And so there's this real, like, and I talked about folks with this, like, just like the kind of the like weirdness between like, are we part of the community? We're not part of the community. We don't, how do we do this? And I feel like the Gutenberg thing is sort of the same. Like it's kind of its own team. There's no real like reporting that happens back. So,
it's a mixed use homeowners association is what it sounds like.
I would argue that Openverse is too new to be lost, and no disrespect to anybody on that team. But when you have projects like the Tide project, which did get a little bit of love and mention allegedly in the hosting space for PHP compatibility.
We didn't talk about that even. Oh my gosh.
Right. I saw there was I saw that there was discussion around that, and was really excited that they're talking about kind of bringing the Tide project back, something that has not seen love in years.
Yeah.
And really now that PHP releases have hit this cadence of a new version is getting just thrown out the window, no longer supported, getting security back patches, stuff like that. Like it's really important that we start updating folks, and WordPress has taken a sort of lackadaisical approach in that.
Not sort of lackadaisical, just absolutely lackadaisical.
Right.
And that was confirmed. That has been confirmed this week by that. It is lackadaisical. That is applicable.
That is, but what I'm getting at is like I understand, okay, like you feel like the outsiders a little bit, but like there are some projects that are truly neglected.
Yeah, they really are. They're not neglected. They're a fully sponsored team. They haven't been like brought into the community. So they feel like, you know, they're out here. I think Tide was a big part of the community and then just like withered, like didn't get any love. And so I think that's actually worse. I think the Tide project, it is a much worse kind of effect because it really did kind of, you know, just sort of, and it didn't get that attention. Whereas Openverse is still getting plenty of money and attention. So
right. The Tide project specifically was a Google project. Hey, wait a minute. A Google project abandoned? The hell you say?
Wait, we're in our Google Reader age right here. This is awesome.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Ride the wave.
I'm really hopeful. I hope that anyone who listens to this and made it through the entire hour, which sorry, don't even know how that happened. I guess I had a lot to say. I hope that everyone goes and reads the summit summaries. I hope that anyone who attended the summit goes and reads the summaries and comments and makes corrections. And I think that we have to come up with an action plan. Like we have to move this forward. And the contributor day, we can maybe talk about that next week too, but contributor day was not the extension of Community Summit. That I really was hoping that like we would do all this stuff at Community Summit and then Contributor Day, which is open, could kind of see the decisions and the actions and stuff happening. And to my knowledge, that was not the case. It was just kind of a, you know, just a Contributor Day. I mean, so
I'm looking forward to hearing about that one.
Day. But for example, I had a bunch of folks come down to the marketing table and I was like, hey, they came a little later. I was like, oh, yeah, we're designers. I was like, oh, and they're like, there was no design person there. So we left. Like there was a design listed. Design was a team listed, had a room, was there, had a bunch of people signed up to go, but no lead, no team rep, no table lead showed up to help them at all, which is a very apt metaphor for the design team in general. But
40 hours not contributing.
Yeah, like so they came down to marketing and it just that's weird. Like it's just weird that no one stepped up at all. And design is another one of those teams that's sort of like all sponsored contributors. So if they don't want participation, the best way is to just not be there. And they weren't, and so they couldn't participate there. So I you know, again, I am not trying to attribute this stuff to malice, but according to that saying, if it's not malice, then it is probably stupidity. So I'm not sure which one's worse.
Yeah, that's Hanlon's razor, by the way. I'll make sure that makes it into the show notes.
Which let's also post in the show notes where I got that reference today, the article from which I got that reference, which everyone should read. We're not talking about it, but you should read it. Okay.
Well, anyway, that's it. You heard about what we're going to be talking about next week. So we'll see you all there. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Go on over to
and subscribe to this content. We'd really appreciate it. And you can also go and subscribe to us on all the different places that we stream. Talk to y'all later. You have a good one. Bye-bye.